It's a real pleasure today to have the legendary matchmaker, Roberto Diaz, on a ringside seat with Tassie, mate. Thank you for your time.
Grant, thank you for having me, man. I look forward to it. Let's have some good time and let's talk boxing.
That's what I love to do, mate. And yeah, look, it was a real honor for me to meet you at the WC convention in Hamburg back in December. And I'm always, known of you. And obviously, yeah, it was really good to catch up. And when I saw you, I think at the start off, you were sitting down having a couple of drinks of Mikel Cotto.
Yeah. I think you were walking by. We were there with Miguel having a catch-up time and having a good time, man. So we really enjoyed it. Then obviously we spent some time together in the locker room with Billy
Yep.
Dibb for
Yep.
what was really a historic and well-deserved comeback of the year for the Ring magazine. So hats off to another Aussie, Billy Dibb, the champ.
Yeah, Billy did 100%. I go a long way back with him since he was 15. So it was really good to be there for his final fight and for him to receive the great honor from the Ring magazine for comeback of the year. It was really good to be part of it, mate. It was special. Yeah.
100%, 100%.
So let's talk about your story, mate. So look, what got you into the fight game?
You know, first the passion for boxing, the love for boxing came from early as a young kid because my dad loved boxing. My dad was a big boxing fan, never worked in boxing, never dealt with fighters or really met fighters, but just was a huge fan of boxing. Anytime there was a big event or a big fight or championship fight, it would be on TV. It would be at my house, the gathering, the friends, the family. So I associated boxing with a good time. Early on, I didn't care to watch the fights. I didn't know who fight. I just knew there was a party going to come over, cousins, have a good time, food, just go to sleep late, whatever. It was that's what boxing meant for me. But as I got a little bit older and started sitting down and watching the fights, it drew me. It drew me in, and I had a passion for it. Teenager and early, adulthood, started going to fights on my own and started going with friends and convincing friends it was the greatest sport. And little by little, started hosting those same events that my father used to have at home now on my own with my friends and big parties and pay-per-views. You couldn't miss it. It was always at my house. So there was always the love and the passion, but to get into the business really is, I mean, to this day, it's a dream come true to be working with some of the greatest athletes. But what got me into it was meeting one of my idols at a mall in San Diego during Christmas season, and that's the great Marco Antonio Barrera.
Wow. Yeah, he's one of my
Yeah.
favorites as well. Jeez. Yeah. One of
Meeting
the
him right
greats.
after his loss to Junior Jones, going
Yep.
up to him just like a fan to say, "Hey, champ, keep your head up. You'll be back. You'll be, just an honor to meet you, basically."
Wow.
Um, and we started a relationship a couple years later, and he invited me into part of his camp. And at first, it was just like, "Hey, wave the flag inside the ring," and then do this, do that. A sponsorship would come about, and little by little, the roles got bigger. And when he went on to Golden Boy, I followed him with to Golden Boy, and uh, that drew a chapter in my life where now I was just negotiating fights with the promoter and um, seeing who the right opponent was, the purses, all the logistics to it. And then when he retired, I got the call from the promotion to say, "Would you be interested in working with us as what?" What I had no idea what they wanted, and it was as a matchmaker. And there was doubts in my mind. I'd never done this before on that level, on that you know professional level. It was moving away from where I lived, and uh, it was for a couple of days. Grant, it was just very. I couldn't sleep, but after I really gave it some thought and had the support from my family, it was like, why am I thinking this so much? This
Mm.
is a dream come true. This is what I've always dreamed of, working in boxing. And it's here's the opportunity. And that's the message that I tell people today. Sometimes opportunity doesn't come knocking on your door twice. So take it. take it and believe in yourself. If there's someone that has to believe in yourself, it's you. In you, it's yourself. So you got to gamble on yourself. And I took the risk and thinking, what's the worst thing that could happen? 15 years later, I was one of the matchmakers for one of the top companies in boxing at the time, and met people from all over the world, made relationships with the organizations, with fighters, with promoters. And today, as a manager, as an advisor to fighters, it's helped me a tremendous deal. So the experience I gained there, knowing what the fighter goes through, all the sacrifices they put in, has helped me in this later stage. So a dream come true. That's what got me into boxing, a dream come true.
Mate, that's an amazing story. I mean, geez, by the off chance to meet one of your idols, Marco Antonio Barrera, and then leading into this, and that's inspirational to show that opportunities like that can happen, and if you're right place, right time. But then you've actually gone on with it, and now you're widely regarded as the best in the business. I didn't really know. I didn't know that. Geez, that's really. Oh, that is a story, mate. And okay.
I at times, still
Jeez.
find it, hard to believe, and it's like, nah, you're exaggerating. No, it exactly how it happened, and there was times where I thought, oh man, this is not for me.
Yeah.
But it only gets easier as you gain experience, and that's just the lesson in life that, I love to pass on that message to the fans and to the people to say, hey, dreams do come true.
That's
Just
right.
don't give up the first time. Don't think, oh, it didn't work. Keep trying, keep knocking on that door, and don't give up.
Yeah, well, mate, that's unbelievable. Look, I remember Barrera. Geez, I mean, that fight with Morales, the first one. That's one of the fights I watch over and over again. Unbelievable that and I had a big interest in the trilogy fight between them guys because my dear friend and brother, Nadal Skinny Hussein, fought Jorge. He fought for the world title in that undercard against another great mix, Oscar Larios.
Oh, Jorge Linares.
Yeah.
Jorge Linares fought Larios on the Bernard Hopkins Winky right undercard.
Yeah.
Are you thinking?
No, Nadal Skinny Hussein from Australia fought Oscar Larios. Was it Oscar?
Was he on that? Was he on that undercard?
For the world title.
You're right. Because in the dressing room, I have a picture of Larios, Eddie Reynoso, Chepo Reynoso, and Larios' father.
Yeah.
In the dressing room after the fight.
Jeff Fennick,
we were the main event.
Skinny Hussein. Yeah. Barrera rallies free.
Hussein, correct.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So I was up watching that fight with a lot of interest, that card, besides the main event, but I was really, really watching the Hussein Larios fight. So that was a good one. Yeah.
And that Hussein, his brother fought Arce years later, twice.
Yes,
no?
Twice. The first one was a war. Had all
the cuts, all the blood. That's right. I remember that the Hussein brothers were very, very rugged, very tough, I mean, in all honesty, a lot of the boxers out of Australia, Jeff Fennick, rough, real strong. Not only, really Costa Zoo, even though I know, what he can.
Costa.
But he's
300 fights for Russia, but but he's still Australian.
But he's Australian.
But we took him in for sure.
And today, Kambosos. Kambosos is one of those type, of Russian fighter. I mean, Aussie fighters that are like, let's go. Let's exactly. And that's why I like him. I like him because win, lose, or draw, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a fight. You're going to get a fight. Exactly. Well, he's not there to fold.
Well, I trained with the Hussein brothers under Jeff Fennick. So their brother Billy was a assistant trainer, and we all sparred all the time. Vic Dutchinian as well. He was part of the team, Vic.
I did. I was close to Vic for a while. I did one of his fights in Mexico. We went to fight. I think it was in the Cancun area. I don't remember if it was Cozumel or what, but I took Vic to fight one of his last fights. One of his last wins was with me, and tremendous fighter, amazing fighter.
Yeah, yeah. So we had a good team at that stage under Jeff, and it was many other great for Danny Green, and
Danny
so many
Green,
more.
correct.
Sakio Bika. Yeah,
Sakio
was a
Bika was a tough guy. He was at Golden Boy for a while with Al
well,
Heyman. So yeah. Sakio was
so
a
that was
tough
the one
guy.
team. That was the one team under Jeff. So it was a
Wow.
pretty good. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah, that was cool.
There was some major cojones in that
A
gym.
lot of cojones, mate. A lot of cojones.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, and obviously, well, yeah, Jeff, geez, Mexico knows him well. We fought a lot of great Mexicans, and it was so cool at the convention to meet Zarate and Zaragoza. It was, yeah, for me as a boxing purist and a historian. Um, it was just amazing to meet some of these legends. You know what I mean? And
Well,
Chiquita
Jeff
Gonzalez.
beat yeah, Jeff beat
Yeah,
both of them, and
yeah.
and it was so touching that Zarate and Zamora, the Z's,
Mm.
who had their own battle against each other,
Mm.
walked out our friend Billy
Oh, I
Dib for his
know.
final fight. So that
That's what I
was that was
mean.
great. That was
Just to
great.
see him in the change rooms, it was unbelievable. I thought, is this? I wish my father was still here because he used to love Zarate and a lot of the Mexican fighters, So that was my first real history into the fight game was my father, my grandfather. But yeah. So after as you said, Barrera retired and you got the opportunity with Golden Boy. Tell me, how it all sort of started from there. Like, who were some of the names at the start that you were matching for, and a few of the fights that you made.
Well, a lot of the fighters at that time, we started signing young fighters. The company was in the really at the time I started. There was the big names, Barrera, uh, Bernard, Mosley, but then we started to really grow with young fighters, and that's where the Danny Garcia, the Charlos, Wilder, Broner, all those names were babies starting.
Spence,
Spence came a few years
a
later
year
because
later.
Spence,
Yeah,
yeah, he's another generation, but Abner Mares was a little bit ahead of the team
yeah,
because he was one of the originals signed by Golden Boy, Israel Vasquez.
yeah.
So that's where the Ponce de Leon, those guys were starting to now become main events. Remember Librado Andrade and his brother Enrique.
Mm,
So little by little, the younger group came and started building. And really one of the things that still I hold with a lot of pride is at the beginning, because you got to remember to make a world champion from zero, it takes about 5 years. It takes
mm,
about 20 fights to get them to the top position and then ready for a world title fight. So the knock on Golden Boy originally was, oh yeah, if you're already a star, they know how to promote you, but they don't know how to build fighters. They don't know how because it had not been done yet.
mm,
And I do take a lot of pride and I pat myself on the back because out of that young group, Adrian Broner became a world champion. Deontay Wilder was the first heavyweight champion to come bring the title back to America.
mm,
Danny Garcia became a world champion. Charlo became a world champion. Abner Mares became a multiple division world champion. Leo Santa Cruz became Ponce de Leon. I mean,
mm.
who didn't become the better
Yeah,
questions? Who didn't become a world champion that
that's right.
started off there? So there's a lot of pride in saying, you know what? Now they can't say we don't know how to build champions. We can only work with established champions. So um, it was great. It was I worked with Ricky Hatton. I
Yep,
brought Ricky Hatton over to Golden Boy, and the relationship I had with Ricky, and
great
then bringing
guy.
him over to Golden Boy, amazing guy, amazing. I mean, I still miss those days of Ricky Hatton fights because they weren't just a fight. They were an amazing
An
event. They
event,
were
yeah.
amazing weekend of his soldiers, of his
Mm,
fans cheering and singing for 24 hours nonstop, drinking for not, nonstop.
yeah,
So it was just a moment that I'll never forget, always cherish. I worked with David Hay. Um,
yeah,
I
yeah.
signed David Hay, even though he never fought in America, which I always wanted him to do. Um, David was a fighter that I admired a lot because he wasn't a heavyweight, went on to win the heavyweight world title,
Mm,
but you had excitement in a moment in an era that wasn't exciting in the heavyweight division. David brought excitement because one thing or two is either he got knocked out or he'd knock you out. And most of the time in
correct.
the beginning of his career, he was knocking you out with the famous haymaker. So,
Oh yeah.
uh, it was just fun. And I was just very privileged. I worked with the great Bernard Hopkins for many years. I worked with Shane Mosley for a few fights.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Even Erik Morales and someone that was looked at as the enemy on the other side for many years with Barrera, ended up being on the stable, and we became very close and
Mm.
working together. So you learn a lot. You learn a lot from these legends. You learn a lot with the sacrifices they go through, the fighters, how it's a lonely world when they're up in camp. They got to leave family behind. They got to leave their comfort zone, and why they do it for their selves, for their legacy, for their fighters, for their family. But it is a tough life. I mean, cutting weight, sparring 3 times a week. The fans see the end result. Wow, that fight
Yeah.
was easy, a one
That's
round
right.
knockout. But they don't see the 8 weeks or 10 weeks sometimes behind it. So, um, props out to all those champions that I mentioned that I was very fortunate to work with. And again, it's a dream come true. I mean, to be working in a sport or in a job that I love, that I have so much passion for, I've been very fortunate.
No, 100%, mate. And as I said, I always tell people, beyond the bright lights, they don't see the hard work that goes into it. They don't see the sacrifices that fighters make. Via like the training, the weight cuts, the punishment in sparring, away from their families. It's okay on the night. They see the end result, but they don't see what goes on. So I always remind people of what really goes on behind the scenes of the fight game. And geez, you mentioned some, mate. Look, and this, like you said before, to already have what they say already made champions, but to build them from the ground up is a different story. To take a guy, say from his pro debut, to carefully match opponents, to give them different looks coming along their journey, give them a few southpaws, a few right-handers, different styles, boxers, punches, try and stay away from punches early on, but just all the things it takes to do what you've done to get them there, the right fights, the right time, to get them to the world title, to get them the best money you can get them for them and their family, to get them in the position to fight for a title. I mean, it's a kudos to you, mate, because it's a matchmaking is the hardest job in boxing, and probably it's not the great, you know what I mean, because all the phone calls non-stop, and I've only done it on an Australian sort of level, but yeah, kudos to you, mate, because I mean, to
Thank
get
you.
a fighter in position, not just for a belt, but you're helping their family, you're helping them after boxing. You're trying to get the best. If you work for a fighter, you're trying to get the best deal possible. You know what I mean?
No, you're
So,
100%, and it is, you hit it right on the nose. I mean, it is a probably the worst job
mm,
in the industry. The less like the less gratifying
no,
and the hardest work there,
yeah,
because you are 24/7, 7 days
yeah,
a week.
yeah,
You don't have days off. The phone for me, for personally, the phone's always on.
yeah,
So kudos. I don't do it anymore, but kudos to all those matchmakers out there. They know what they do. They know
yeah.
how hard it is.
That's
I know
right.
how hard it is.
Yeah,
So keep up the great work, because behind the scenes, those are the guys that are really moving the strings. And there's some legendary out there that have done it like nobody else, like Bruce Trampler, Brad Goodman, Jolene. There's some
yeah.
amazing, uh, and there's some coming up and coming. Like every generation has that group, but it's not for everybody.
Mm.
It's just stressing. You get that phone call, hey, I'm not gonna make the fight. Hey,
Oh, the
I'm
pullout.
10 pounds.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm pulling
oh,
out.
oh,
And you get every excuse. My girlfriend doesn't want me to fight.
oh.
The doctor doesn't want me. There's always something. I,
Always
I had I
something.
remember one fight. Um, the fighter was on his way to the venue and didn't show up.
Mm.
Didn't show up fight night. He had done the weight, and it's like, anybody know what happened? Where is he? Where's he going?
Mm.
Ended up not showing up, and then I found out a few days later he had got arrested on his way to the venue
Mm.
because he had stopped to buy some drugs. So it's
Yeah.
like, what the
Wow.
heck?
Yeah.
Another one actually was there to fight. I believe he left the hotel to go buy Gatorade, getting ready for the weigh-in, and coming out of the store gets arrested because he had a warrant, and that was my main event to fight Ryan
No.
Garcia. So it was like, oh my God. So
Yeah.
one thing that you learn quickly is expect the unexpected,
Unexpected. Yeah.
and then just the show must go on. Do what you got to do, fix it, and move forward, because
Yeah.
the show must go on.
Yeah, what happened to my one of my best friends on the debut back when they were doing the same day weigh-in as the fight, and his opponent weighed in, and the he done a deal with the promoter. The promoter made a mistake and paid him before the fight. He didn't turn up to the fight. My mate was gloved up, coming out of the first bout of the night for his 4-rounder for his debut, and his opponent was nowhere to be seen. My mate just burst into tears, and the promoter still paid him, and then yeah, he had his debut a few weeks later. But that was crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
geez.
because at that point, it's not even about the money. It's they put in all the hard work. The first thing
Oh,
they're looking for that bell ringing and letting their fist go, because it's not about the money. You're looking forward to put in all the hard work and training.
mm,
You're looking forward to letting that steam go off and get that victory, how it should. So,
mm.
I'm sorry that happened. Lesson learned. Don't ever pay before the event. Don't ever pay. Look, in life, you don't pay the painter to come paint your house and pay him in advance because he'll never show up. You don't pay the gardener to cut the grass before, you pay him after. So lesson learned.
That's definitely true. So yeah, so like a lot of the fighters you just mentioned, mate, some great ones there. And Abner Mares he was one of my favourites. I always liked the little lesser lighter weights because that was myself as a featherweight. So I like the bantamweights, featherweights, lightweights. But yeah, and that was a great stable. So moving on after that sort of class of fighters, tell me about some of the next generation after that lot.
Well, after that, quickly came Canelo. After the Erik Morales and then we worked with Lucas Matisse, Maidana.
Yep.
It was the time where in his prime, Floyd Mayweather was staging the big fights, and
Yep.
underneath, little by little, chopping away, getting the names, making his name, fighting, in the opener and then on the
Yep.
co-main event, Canelo Alvarez. And
Mm.
sure enough, became one of the biggest names in boxing, learned a lot from the fight with Floyd. And from there on, he took off. I was very fortunate to have worked with Canelo for a long time. And to this day, still hold a very good relationship with him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's for sure. Yes, because I mean, Floyd had all them fights under Golden Boy, so you would have been, working with every undercard. You would have matched all the pretty much.
I'll tell you something funny. Um, with Floyd fights, I really didn't have anything to do with the matching. It was just like you give your opinion here and there. But
Yeah.
those fights were pretty much like, okay, who's one of the top names in boxing? Who
Yeah.
could, Floyd fight? And Floyd would basically decide. But he fought a lot of Golden Boy fighters. But I'll tell you, and I haven't said this, so this is something that first time heard. I didn't go to a lot of Floyd fights. Even working with the promotion, it wasn't like, okay, the job's done, the matches are done, everything's set. I wasn't, I didn't attend come fight night a lot of his fights. I attended Miguel Cotto fight because all his career, I was a big Miguel Cotto fan. So I attended it because of Miguel Cotto. I attended Floyd against Mosley. I was a big Mosley fan as well.
Oh, that
I
right
att-
hand that night, geez,
oh,
up,
that,
almost, almost upset the
but
party.
Floyd, yep. But Floyd, obviously, amazing fighter,
Mm.
was able to adjust and come back and dominate. But it was very few fights that I attended of Floyd's. I was there at the Marcus fight, um, but very few fights. I wasn't there at Maidana's fights. I wasn't there for the uh, uh, Guerrero fight. I wasn't there for the Berto fight. So there was a lot of fights, even though we're under the Golden Boy banner, that I wouldn't attend to. And it's, I seem to say, great fighter. Great fighter. I don't agree with the greatest ever, but great
No, I
fighter.
don't either. Yeah.
But I wasn't a fan
Mm.
of the Mayweather persona. I was there to see Cotto win, Mosley win. Anybody who fought that I thought had a chance, I was there to be there. I wanted to be there. But look, he made me a believer and say, okay, you know what? I give it to him. He's one of the greatest ever, but not the greatest. Obviously didn't lose if we go by the record. So he has to be considered one of the best. And props to him for an amazing record. But I just wasn't one of those major fans.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, yeah, Canelo. Obviously, he's all learned a lot from that fight. I mean, yeah, a lot. You know, I did think it might have been too soon at the time, but he really wanted that test in there. He wanted to test himself against the best, and you can't knock him for that.
It's easy. You know, obviously, when the fight happened, everybody was gung ho, including myself. I did think that this was it. This was going to be the first man to beat Mayweather, because if you look at Floyd's record in the past prior to Canelo, if he had fought a guy from a bigger weight, they were older than him. And if he fought a younger guy, they were normally smaller than him.
Marquez.
Again, having the advantage.
Yeah.
Canelo was I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Canelo was the first time he was fighting somebody younger and physically bigger.
Mm.
So now I felt like, okay, now you're in trouble, buddy. Now after the fight, again, props to Floyd for an amazing job. But I do think, outside of maybe it was a little too soon, you know, Canelo had a load of fights at the time. But the weight also hurt Canelo. The last couple pounds, you stepped into the ring, you stepped on the scales. You know that it's not the first couple pounds, it's the last couple.
It's the last one.
The last one.
Yes.
People don't understand that can leave everything on the scale and not have enough time to recuperate to go in the fight. That and the experience, of course, Floyd being who he is and a hell of a fighter. But if you could turn back time and say, do I think Canelo would do it again? Or would I advise to do it again? Yes. Again, yes, because that's where the fighter became the real guy after. If you don't have that experience, sometimes you don't know how good he can get later. I think because of that, Canelo turned into a much bigger fighter. Obviously, the exposure of that fight, the support from the fans, the love from the fans, even after, a fighter really grows sometimes from the defeat. And I think Canelo definitely grew from that, learned from that, because in the very next fight, you started seeing little signs of what he picked up from the Floyd fight. I mean, even the shoulder roll came over, and then boxing and the bending of the waist and everything. So if that made you better, then it was worth it. And I think at the end of the day, it was worth it. I don't see it. I don't think he sees it as a loss. I think it's to be seen as the experience to get you better. So if that works that way, then it was worth it.
Well, I mean, look, let's go back. I mean, the one thing I'm very against in this generation is everyone's so protective of their you don't want to lose, obviously, but back in the old days, I'm talking about the greats, mate, the Willie Peps, the Salvador Sanchez's, like the Zaragozas, Zarades, Jake LaMotta, mate. A lot of these guys are legends, Hall of Famers, but they got lost on the record. Mate, you do learn from a loss. And there might have been a reason behind that loss. But you do having this O thing is it's a bit of a smoke and mirrors for me. All the all-time greats, the living not the living legend, but the guys before us all had Sugar Ray Robinson, Ali had losses. I mean, it doesn't define you. So, like you just said, Canelo went to another level. He went to a school that day. He did, but you can't look at him now. I mean, look, arguably, the biggest name, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll be in rival corners that night, I think. But we'll talk about that soon. But I think, talk about taking something from a fight. That is the blueprint. Canelo versus Floyd. He went on to master his game, and I've admired him for a long time, especially for a Mexican. We're known for the blood and guts in your face. Someone that thinks like he does and boxes. Him and Marquez, very IQ, like he's a boxer.
I think you hit it right on. My favorite era was the 80s. And if we go back to the 80s, I don't care what division you talk about, Wilfredo Gomez, Alexis Arguello,
Alexa Guayo,
Salvador Sanchez, Zarate, Pintor. But let's go to the welterweight division. Leonard, Hearns, Duran, Benitez, Cuevas, Ranzani, Palomino. I mean, you got
Benitez.
top 10 guys. Either one could be a world champion at any time. They all fought each other. They all lost to each other.
The best.
And we still talk about one of the greatest fights in boxing history, Hagler and Hearns. And you rarely talk about, oh, yeah, Hearns got knocked out. No, you really focus on 9 minutes of hell because it was an amazing fight,
Yeah.
I think really that being protected came from that generation after Floyd.
Yeah.
And all the young kids from the gyms coming up in the amateurs, going pro. Wow, I want to be like Floyd. And what does that mean? I want to be famous. I want to be on top of the world. And in order to do that with the money and the cars and the jewelry, I got to be undefeated. I got to be and it worked for Floyd because he was a mastermind. He was a genius. But it hurt boxing when nobody will fight each other or when nobody will take those risks. It's always been a business. But when the business got in front of the sport, it affected the sport in general.
Oh, of course it did.
And now I think we're living the new era. Floyd's been retired. I know every once in a while he'll come back for an exhibition. Hey, if they pay, why not?
That's right.
But the new era, the younger fighters are growing up and looking at who's on top. Oh, wait a minute. I see the cars. I see the jewelry. I see the nice clothes. I see on top of the world, but I don't see this guy has a couple losses. So it's okay to lose and you can still be on top of the world because Canelo lost to Floyd. Canelo lost to Bivol, but he's still on top. So, you know what? I'm going to take risks. And we've seen it with Teofimo, with Ryan, with Tank. They all started fighting each other in an era where normally Haney, so props. Now I think these fighters are getting out of the and now willing to risk it. And I think we, as in the promotional side, set the egos aside.
Yeah.
Don't worry about, I can't afford to lose to that promoter or this promoter. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is look once a year, that Super Bowl, that World Cup,
that's right.
NBA championship, put your best against their best and their best against your best.
Yeah.
Boxing wins, fans wins, fighters will win some, fighters will lose some. But 20 years from now, there's no better love and respect for a fighter that's retired for the fans to come up and say, I still want to get a picture with you. You were a great fighter. Can I get an autograph? Okay. That's so rewarding. That's so rewarding for them because when they retire, 9 out of 10 fighters will tell you it's not money that brings them back. They
Yeah.
miss that public. They miss the applause. They miss
Yep.
the ring walk.
Yep.
They don't miss getting punched in the
Nah.
head,
Nah.
but they miss the love of the fans.
Totally understand that, man. And look, I was never at the level of the guys we mentioned, but look, even for me, my career. I mean, I still visual. I'm 47 now. I retired when I was 33, but I still visual. Want to do that ring walk. Miss the crowd. Miss that reason to train. I mean, because it's hard when you're
That
not fighting.
that's what I'm saying.
Just
The
miss that.
adrenaline.
Oh,
People don't
nothing
understand the
like it.
adrenaline.
Nothing like it.
You nothing like it. The adrenaline of walking
No,
down and feeling the
no.
crowd. Everybody thinks that it's crazy, but yes, there's nerves because you're going to put your life on the line as soon as that
Yeah,
bell rings.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you're willing to do that for their entertainment because
yeah,
of that adrenaline to walk to
yeah.
that ring, listening to your song, getting pumped
Oh,
up, getting the applauses or getting the boos against you.
yeah, yeah. Either
That
or.
that's incredible.
It is amazing, and like yeah, it's something that stays with you forever. But yeah, you do miss it. There's nothing like it. It's a pure drug, and that's legal. I mean, and I tell people too, boxing's the realest part of life. Now, I said this to someone recently. You might be not as good as your job as you make out, but you get by. You bluff your boss. He thinks you're great. You might bluff your wife. She might think you're better than what you really are. You might bluff your friends. They might think you're the tough one in the group or the smarter. But you're bluffing them. But in boxing, there's no bluffing. If you're not what you say you are, you're going to be exposed in the ring, mano on mano, in front of your friends and family. Depends what level you're at, even or across the world. If you aren't what you say you are in that ring, you're going to be exposed. You're going to be embarrassed. True?
You're 100%. There's a saying in boxing that we say in Spanish that I learned in Mexico is el boxeo es muy celoso. Boxing's a very jealous. You hit it right on. You can lie to your coach. Hey, did you do your run this morning? Yes, I did, coach. You can lie to your wife. You can lie to your boss. Exactly what you're saying. But you can't lie to boxing. Boxing's very jealous. And if you don't put in the time, by the third, fourth, fifth round, boxing's going to remind you, can't fuck with me. So that's when you're like, I should have run. I should have done this. I should have not, but it's too late. And it's a beautiful sport because it gives,
It's honest.
we got to
Pure.
remember
It's pure.
it's pure, but we got to remember that those that come from boxing come from humble beginnings, come from tough neighborhoods, come from rough neighborhoods or broken families. A rich man is not a young rich kid's not going to say, "Oh, I'm going to go to boxing and get my head beat." So most of the time, it's from the bottom, and yet you get a young man who puts in the hard work, who has the talent, who grows, and boxing can give him fame. Boxing can give him travel all over the world. Boxing can give him maturity. I mean, let's go back to Canelo, who turned pro at 15, but prior to that, right around there, a little bit, before that, selling popsicles on a bus to make ends meet, to help the family, to cover his expenses, to get to the gym, to selling popsicles. Today, he owns the bus the bus company, and he owns the popsicles, and he owns the I mean, shit. But boxing has allowed him to do that, and so that's why I always say it's a very humble sport, amazing sport. I believe boxing saves lives because whether you become a world champion, whether you even become a professional, you took you out of the street, out of the gangs, probably out of jail, because it kept you busy for a few hours. It kept you disciplined. It kept you motivated to go fight for a $5 trophy as an amateur. But that turned a young potential gang member, potential criminal into somebody positive for society. Whether he goes into boxing as a profession, but now he probably goes on to do something outside of boxing, but not go back, not go into jail or not get into trouble. So I've always said it saves lives. I believe it. I think we need to see more programs on the smaller level to get kids out of the streets, out of the gangs, into the gyms, regardless if they go on to become pro or not.
No, 100%. I mean, and going back there, like with Canelo, but like Manny Pacquiao, I think was selling donuts as a little Filipino kid, and I mean,
On the
and
streets, yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
and and even Oscar, I mean, look, he was you know, East LA, and he obviously would have come up across a lot of things on his road run, but I mean, he had the vision to go to the Olympic gold medal and the rest is history there. And I tell a lot of people, when you're a kid, I'm my first fight at 13, you're not thinking about money or you're thinking about winning that trophy. You just want
Correct.
that. You just want that little momentum. And amateur boxing is so pure. Um, as they said, like, because like you want that trophy, you want that medal, then you want to keep getting better. And then if you are having success, you want to represent your city. And I tell a lot of the kids I train, the goal should be for you to represent your country, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I achieved, and it's still the main thing. More than anything I've done as a pro was as an amateur, and you should want to represent your country. You should, if you haven't got that in your back mind, why are you boxing? I mean, like if it's great to box just to stay off the streets, but competitively have that goal to represent your country, and you're not thinking about the pro game and that till later. You're not thinking mate, money or cars. It's not even realistic at that stage. You just want that trophy, and that's what's great
If
about.
you if you ask a lot of these kids before they go pro, they want to, and they've decided I want to go pro, and they want to be world champions. They want to be role models to give back.
Mm,
There's a transition along the way that, again, because they come from almost nothing, that it's hard to keep your feet on the ground and stay humble and
mm.
stay hungry because money changes everything. It changes your circle. It changes, Grant, fake friends start showing up. Oh, you're the champion. Oh,
Yeah.
man, you're fake business partners show up because, oh, you have money. Let's invest here. I'll help you here. I can do this. I can do. They all flock at you. And that's the dirty part, the ugly part, because when you're on top, everybody wants to be there and enjoy the party. When you fall from a defeat or something, a lot of people go on to the next guy. And it's good, but it's life. I
Mm,
always say that boxing is like life. A
mm,
fight, a 12-round fight is like life itself. We can learn so much from the fighters because we're going to have a bad day. We're going to have a good day. We're going to fall. There's going to be problems at work. There's going to be problems at home. There's going to be problems with family, with friends. But it's all about continuing and moving forward and don't giving up. And you might fall down, but you got to get up and keep fighting. It's a
mm.
12-round fight. The important thing is get your hand raised at the end. Doesn't have to be a knockout all the time. So we can learn so much from this and apply it to outside of the ring for us. There's every day there's battles, family going through sicknesses, going through
Oh,
divorces, going through fights at work or this or that. But just keep moving on. Have faith that it's going to get better. Keep working hard, and things will get better. So, we can learn a lot. And I think boxing in general, going back to what you said, is the kids fight for a $5 trophy when they're young and they're not thinking about I can't wait to go pro to have this card or to have this
nah.
chain or have this watch. They want to be a world champion. They want to
Yeah.
put their name in the books. They want to be a role model and go back to the school, go back to the neighborhood and say, look at my belt. But there's a transition along the way. And a lot of times, because they weren't prepared financially to learn how to invest in everything, they get the abundance of money and it's like, whoa, this will never end. And that's the sad thing because at the end of the career, when the fight game's over, a lot of them had the struggle of where's the next check going to come from, you know?
Yep.
So I think we have to do promotionally, manage wise, training wise, everybody a better job to prepare these guys
For life
just like we
after
do at the
boxing. Yeah.
beginning, but
Yeah.
prepare them for the end as well.
Oh,
Bill,
totally agree.
Billy and I were talking recently about it, and it's sad to see a lot of our living legends in the conditions they are and how they're living. And it's like you know what? You're right, Billy. Something needs to be done,
Yeah,
and helping them invest and helping them put away for the future and helping them, if it's just a little bit, a
yeah.
little, in the end, it could be a good pension or so. But I guess we'll leave that for another topic, another day.
Nah, 100%, mate. Totally agree with you there. So let's go sort of obviously Canelo, obviously he's a major star, and you're there from day one. Let's go on to Ryan Garcia. Your history of him, and obviously looking after him at Golden Boy.
I got a video. Every once in a while, I'd get videos. In fact, early on, it was a lot of videos, DVDs. I don't think it ever got to the cassettes, but early on, it was a lot of DVDs. I'd take them on the road with me whenever I went to fights. I'd watch them on the road, and a lot of them were either bad recordings or jumping rope and didn't really mean much. Every once in a while, though, there would be a video that stood out, and we're like, "Whoa, wait a minute! I want to find out who this kid is." And you'd follow up, and Ryan was one of them. I received the video on Ryan from his manager. Ryan was about 7 fights into the program. Nothing special at the time of who he had fought, a few fights in Tijuana, but there was something about the kid. Had the look, had the personality, obviously had the credentials from the amateurs. He won many nationals.
Yeah,
But one of the first things that I remember crossing my mind was a lot of times the people would tell you, take a look. You're going to see the next Mike Tyson, or you're going to see the next Oscar De La Hoya, or you're going to see the next Julio Cesar Chavez. They always would. And then you'd be disappointed, to be honest, when you watch the video and it's like, okay, nothing, no comparison. But I will say this: when I got the video of Ryan, Ryan's manager at the time didn't tell me this is the next Oscar. He just said, "Can you please, take a look,
mm,
let me know what you think."
mm,
And I looked and I said to myself, Oscar De La Hoya,
mm.
without the medal, but the physique, the look, good looking kid, getting a couple, the knockouts. It was still
The
early
left
on.
hook.
Yeah, and you don't look at who he's fighting, you look at how he's doing it, in what fashion. And I said, yes, I'm very interested. And got able to put something together for him. It worked out, signed to my Golden Boy. And look, I'm not as close. I don't see him as often, but when I do watch him on the fights or something like that, I'm proud of what he's done. I'm proud of, it's a lot to fall on your shoulders early on. His history was fast because of social media. The expecting what was expected and the growth and everything overnight. Um, but he's a hell of a fighter. Uh, I know there's more there because I know how good he can be. We just haven't seen it. Um, I was surprised in this last fight. Props
Mm,
to Rolly.
yeah,
Rolly fought even very composed to what I'm normally seen of him. Um, but he's young enough that I think he'll reflect. And this is where you test character,
yeah,
not when you're winning and winning and winning. It's when you fall
yeah.
and taste that loneliness. And that's now it's up to him whether he wants to come back hard or just right off to the sunset. And I know Ryan. I know Ryan. I want to think that I know him well enough that, oh man, they just woke up. They just woke up a sleeping a giant. He's going to come back harder than before, harder than ever.
If you would have been with him at the time, I think I know the answer. Would you have allowed him to um, fight Tank with that rehydration clause?
I think I was still there when we were discussing the fight. I was pro to make the fight. Whenever a young fight, because he wanted the fight,
Yeah,
he wanted the fight. So whenever a fighter wants a fight and believes he can win, that's part of the victory right there. They have to believe they can win. The rehydration clause, I think a lot of times is blown
yeah,
out of proportion to how it's perceived. A lot of times the rehydration clause says it's like the IBF rule.
Yeah.
When you put it in play, you say at 9 or 10 in the morning on fight day, you can't be over 10 pounds. So you go and weigh in. As long as you're under 10 pounds,
Yeah.
you've met that clause.
Hmm.
Now you can go eat breakfast and rehydrate. So
Hmm.
it's not like they say there's a rehydration clause and you can't go over 10 pounds from now till after the fight.
Yeah.
Because that would be like, come on, slow down here, because now you really are for. So there is a rehydration clause. Most of the time, there's the second day weigh-in. It happens on fight day in the morning. You sleep till 8, wake up at 9, go to the weigh-in, be under 10 pounds, and then go have breakfast and hydrate and
Yeah.
go up 15 pounds or so. So
Yeah.
they're not going to be checking your weight every couple hours, or they're not going to check your weight walking into the ring. So um, I think it was too soon.
Mm.
But when a fighter wants it, and here's what I had, uh, my opinion in going into a fight is, if Ryan wants it, we have to make it.
Mm.
Because if we don't make it, we're killing what we say boxing needs, and
Yeah.
which is the young kids fighting each other. If
Mm.
Ryan wants it, we make the fight. And if Ryan wins, superstar, superstar. And if Ryan loses, it's still young enough that you learn from the mistake, you learn and correct those mistakes and then come back. Look, I think boxing's about opportunities. You got to take the opportunities those days. See, that's the thing. We didn't like the era where everybody's protecting the O because they wouldn't fight each other. But then we don't like it, right, when the fighters risk it and
Yeah.
lose. So it's
That's
like,
right.
wait a minute.
Can't win.
No,
Yeah.
let's everybody fight each other. Do it when you're young. Do it in your prime. Whenever you're going to lose, you're going to suck it up, bite the bullet. Sugar Ray Leonard probably didn't, had to go and was really down on himself when he lost to Roberto around the first time,
It
and
was.
probably felt like crap. And why did I fight his fight? And I shouldn't. But man, how good did it feel when he came back in that second fight and made Duran quit and say it was worth it, because
Yeah.
now the second time around was definitely worth it. So look, I am a firm believer that boxing creates opportunities. Jump on the opportunity, make history, and hopefully pretty soon we'll see that with Lamont Roach as he makes history one more time,
Yeah.
but this time it's in the record books.
Yeah. So that's right. So you manage Lamont Roach, yeah?
I work with him and his
You work
father.
with him.
I
Yeah.
advise. Yeah, we've been together for many years at Golden Boy, then after Golden Boy, and I'm really excited at what he did, how he performed in March, and I'm even 2 times, 3 times excited to what's to come.
Yeah. No, I personally thought he won that fight, and that's regardless of that. Him taking a knee. I thought mate, he done what a lot of people could. I mean, look, I've been I know this Tank, because the thing with me, I pay a lot of attention to the amateurs, so I knew of Tank, I knew of Ryan, I knew of Devon, I knew of TA, I knew of Shakur, because I pay a lot of attention to the American amateurs, and I knew Tank was amazing early on, and but mate, look, yeah, he really. He really, I knew they fought in the amateurs too. I think they might have fought twice, maybe. He 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 knew him, and he wasn't. The thing was, he wasn't scared of the power. He knew that he could handle, and that's the main thing with Tank. What does Tank do? Yeah, he's got speed and this and that. He's got a boxing IQ, but we talk about Tank for his power. If he can handle that power, which Lamont knew he could, then you took that away from him. Now it's just a bit of a boxing match, and we all know that Tank doesn't throw a lot of punches late now, and he gets behind the scorecards. And Lamont just fought a great fight, and yeah, that's right. I'm really looking forward to the rematch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lamont was never intimidated. I mean, obviously he knew him, but Tank, I said it before the fight. Tank's a hell of a fighter.
Oh, of course.
One of my favorite fighters out there. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, he falls behind." I think he's like Floyd a lot in the sense that he gives you a sense of security in the
Yeah,
ring to
yeah,
the opponent to get them comfortable. And when they're comfortable, boom, you're
mm,
out of there, you know?
yeah,
But I think a lot of the perception of mini Mike Tyson, this guy that had this amazing power. So a lot of the opponents would go in there with like, oh shit, this guy
mm,
hits hard. 30 wins, 28 knockouts. But Lamont was never fazed by that and never intimidated by that. And he was telling everybody, that would listen, and you'll see, I'm him, I'm him, I'm him. And Tank knew that. Tank knew that early on. Tank knew that if you noticed in that whole promotion, Tank wasn't himself. He was quiet. He respected him,
mm.
and I like that. I like that. We don't need the BS, and if it's not
No,
real,
I
it's
don't.
not real.
100%, 100%.
But come fight night, he knew. He knew, and Lamont was not having it. And I'm so proud of Lamont because it has been a long, hard road, but he never threw in the towel. He
Mm.
never gave up. He always knew it's gonna come. It's gonna come. My time's coming. And his time's now. His time's now. And I'm very confident going into the rematch that we're gonna have even a better fight. Tank now knows. If he didn't already, he now knows. The world, more than importantly, now knows. And I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to it this time. I hope
July,
no
July.
timeouts. We should have an announcement very soon from PBC, and we're just
Yeah,
waiting for them to make it official. But this time, no timeouts.
yeah, yeah. No, 100%. I mean, because there's that many big fights out there too. I mean, for both fighters. I mean, you got Shakur there. Um, well, it depends now. I mean, looks like Keyshawn's going up now. It looks like, but I mean, I guess Shakur. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, there's Robert Garcia's got a good fighter.
Murataya is
Yeah,
a hell of
yeah.
a
I
fighter.
like
Raymond
him. I
Murataya.
like
Yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
Good,
like.
good, good fighter.
I've had Robert on, Robert and Mikey on this podcast. I like both the guys, the Garcias.
Yeah, even if we didn't know who it was, if Robert's in that corner, we got to put some respect
You got
because
to put
he,
respect on his
he'll
name.
he'll have something up his sleeve that is like, okay, hold on, who is this?
1,000,000%, mate. Yeah, they're good. They're good guys down Oxnard. But yeah, So I guess Shakur's probably the main one there. Now, I mean, Devon's gone up. Ryan, Tio, they're all sort of that bit. It didn't surprise you when Ryan done what he done to Devon? Didn't it surprise you?
Yes, it did surprise me. I won't lie.
Yeah.
It surprised me. I thought Ryan, I was fooled with the whole uh weeks leading into the fight. I'm like, oh man, he shouldn't fight. Something's not right. Um, and again, I'm thinking I know Ryan very well, and it was like I didn't like it. I didn't like what was going on. If I don't know now if I could say it was all an act because of how he performed inside the ring, but I didn't expect that performance. I expected uh, not being in shape and not being able to perform and maybe even looking for a way out on a DQ or something. So um, if he was going to win, I didn't expect it in that fashion. Dropping Devin 3 times in that fashion as well, because I had faced Devin a couple times with a couple of the guys that I worked with, which was Jojo Diaz and Jorge Linares, and
Yes.
then I seen him a couple times, in there with Comboses. And one thing that Devin had that he did very well is lower the output of the opponent and controlled that with that jab, the distance, and regardless of what we think of the Lomachenko fight, it was still close enough for
Oh,
people to think he won the fight or not.
it was
But
a good fight.
but it was showing me that he had, or and going to Australia twice, he had gone through fire, so he was ready to continue to go through fire. And I think he showed it because getting up 3 times and continuing and finishing the fight. But
He still won a lot of rounds too. Like, I mean, that was I mean, the knockdowns made the big difference, but he still won some
with the
rounds.
knockdowns,
Yeah.
exactly. but Ryan had not gone through the fire, and that was
Mm.
my only question. Ryan had fought Tank, but it was really one punch that ended it. So
Mm.
there wasn't, he had fought Luke, he got dropped, he got up, he won by
Yeah,
knockout,
correct.
but like a firefight he hadn't been through yet. You know, Devin rocked by Linares really bad late in the fight, but was able to hang on, coast the last 2 rounds, hang on for dear life, and get away and get the decision. So he had shown by going through fire, and Ryan hadn't. So I didn't know if he was going to be able to perform. And then, like I said, a couple weeks going into the fight, all the antics, everything going on, I'm like, is this a cry for help? Is he like, help? Somebody help me? But he fooled me. He fooled me. He did a hell of a job, and unfortunately, the testing came out like that. But I still think now, if they fight again, Devin's going to need, and we saw it in the last fight, Devin's going to need 2 or 3 fights to really get that behind him.
Yeah,
What we saw in the fight with Ramirez is the effects of the Ryan fight.
yeah,
We didn't have, he boxed and this, he moved too much. I thought after a few 4 or 5 rounds, okay, he's going to settle into the fight. These are still the after effects of the Ryan fight. So
yeah.
it's going to take a couple fights to get that behind him, turn the page and say, okay, I'm back.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate, 100%. So let's move on to the big fight that's coming up, Canelo versus Terence Crawford. We just spoke about it earlier off air how I had Terence in Australia. He's become a very dear friend of mine, and I'll be looking forward to the fight. I mean, I've respected Canelo. Canelo's been one of my favourite fighters for many years, but I'll be with Team Crawford 100%. Run me through it, mate. It's a like you said, Terence is a generational fighter. You can put him in any era, which is a big call. I agree with it. Put him in any era, and he's there with all the greats. But I mean, Canelo is a superstar, and the whole thing about it is more the weight. I don't think it'd be as big as um, people wouldn't be probably doubting Terence as much if it wasn't for the weight. He's definitely got the skills, but the fact he's going up two, I say sort of three because he only had the one fight at 154 against Madrimov, and so in my opinion, he's going up three. Run me through your thoughts on the whole fight, the show, everything.
Grant, I think it's a hell of a fight. I think it's one of those fights that we'll talk about for 10, 15, 20 years. Not necessarily how it's going to unfold, but I think it's a fight the fans can't miss. Like one of those fights, I do see like a Duran Leonard. I do see like a Hagler Hearns. Again, not how it unfolds, but one of those fights that we'll be talking about for years because the level of IQ is off the charts. You have two fighters that have very high IQ. They have a lot of experience. Rarely do they make mistakes. But another thing that they both have in common, they don't want to lose. And nobody wants to lose, but some will go in there like, oh shit, I'm getting the payday of my life. I don't care if I win, lose, or die. I already won. They both have legacy as the most important thing. Canelo is showing it because why is he still fighting? Here's a guy that's achieved beyond beyond what was dreamt of or what he ever thought of. Divisions, titles, money, fame, longevity, and yet he's still doing it. Why? For the love of the sport, for his legacy. For Terrence, for Bud, to me, it's a no-brainer. I'm coming towards that end of my career. Shit, I gotta fight Canelo. That's the biggest name in boxing. If I lose, everybody's saying I should lose. I'm not supposed to win. But when I win, and this is what he's thinking, is I'm one of the greatest fighters that ever lived.
Yeah,
And the pain. But you mentioned earlier that I said yes. I've always believed that the fighters from the past are better than the fighters after them. And I apply it, let's just say the welterweight division from Sugar Ray Leonard in the 80s to the so you get the Leonard, Hagler, Duran, and
Yes.
uh Hearns against Oscar, Trinidad, Fernando, and Icorte. Boom. Who comes out personally? As
Mm.
great as this group, the second group was,
That was a good group. That was my
it
era,
was.
actually.
It was
But
a great group, but I gotta give it to Hagler, Hearns, Duran,
yeah,
Leonard. I mean, these
yeah,
guys were
yeah,
the Fantastic
a
Four, and you
hundred
throw
percent. Yeah,
Benitez in there, the
yeah. Benitez
world
was just on the
champion at
outset. Yeah,
17.
yeah.
And then you get, for instance, Oscar, Trinidad, Fernando, and Icorte, and put them in against the group that we see today of Teofimo,
Oh,
Haney,
oh,
Ryan, and
oh.
the guys in the past will come
Oh,
and walk over there.
please, please.
So so it's like, but Terence Crawford, I saw a tweet a couple years ago because I've always said the guys from the past will beat the. But Terence Crawford, when I see this tweet, hey, who would win Terence Crawford against Aaron Pryor? And normally I don't pay attention to these fantasy fights. They don't like whoever's perception or depending on what age group, because they're not going to give credit to the guy from the past. They're only going to go for the guy they know. But I'm like, wait a minute. Wow, that's a hell of a fight. Wow, I was a big Pryor fan. I like Pryor. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
great photo.
oh, wait a minute. That you got me thinking here. And as I thought and evolved, and that's when I said, wow, Crawford will stop
He gets hit.
Pryor.
Pryor gets hit. Yeah.
Pryor was very
He gets hit.
windmill, and then this guy would have been like, boom,
Yeah,
boom, boom,
yeah,
and knocks him. And I'm like, you know what? That's one of the first times I've ever thought of a present beating the past.
yeah.
And I even told him when I saw him at a fight in Vegas, I said, hey, bud, lots of respect and this and that. And I said, you're a modern day Marvin Hagler. And
Mm.
to me, Marvin was one of the greatest fighters that ever stepped
Oh,
into
of
the ring.
course, of course.
He seemed like he had that chip and he had something to prove and never got the love and respect of the golden guy, but
Yeah,
people knew, be careful. There was a respect because, and I see that with Bud. It's
yeah,
very similar. We don't give him the flowers he really deserves or throw out the red carpet, but we still know, hey, this guy, you don't mess with him. He's real. Going back to the question, what I see, I think personally, as the matchmaker as a matchmaker, because I have nothing to do with the fight, I don't like it for Canelo. Why? You beat Crawford. I don't think they'll give him the respect. I mean, we've seen it time after time. No matter what he does, people, you got to find it. That's boxing in general. But I don't think if he knocks him out, oh, of course you did. He was little. And if he doesn't knock him out, oh, you couldn't knock out the little guy. And if he loses, oh my God, the haters are going to come out like, yeah, celebrate. Because, and can he lose? Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Bud is that good. Bud is that IQ. But the size, the weight, sure, it plays a part. People are saying right now, I hear a couple fighters are from the past. There's weights divisions for a reason. Yes. But there's also great fight. Let's not forget. We can't apply it for one and not apply it for all. But there's also generational greats who have done what's not supposed to be done. And if Manny Pacquiao can do it, and Oscar can do it, and Floyd can do it, why can't Bud do it?
mm.
So, Sugar Ray Leonard went up to face Donnie Lalonde, who was a big, big boy. And I'll even go further. We were talking about my good friend David Hay. When he went up to the heavyweight division and won the title from Nikolov, there was not 1, 2, 3 divisions above him. There was probably like 10 divisions because that boy was a giant.
He's
and
a big
yet
boy.
David went in there and did the unthinkable. and won the world title from one of the biggest heavyweights in the history of boxing. So it can be done. Canelo is not physically a big super middleweight. What's gotten him to get into the super middleweight or beat light heavyweights in Kovalev is his talent, his determination, his hard work. But this guy has talent. This guy is determined. This guy's gonna put in the work. Physically, I don't give any advantage to Canelo as far as who's the bigger man. In fact, maybe on fight night, coming into the ring, we may see Bud being like the bigger guy. He's putting in the work. It's been done. Roy went up to heavyweight, being a middleweight, put on the work. Quietly behind the scenes, he's doing it. Can the punch now, because it's smaller gloves, there's no headgear, make the difference? Yes. But I don't see Bud being a fighter that gets caught with one shot and gets knocked out. I think it's going to be an accumulation. So Canelo has to be, and he will be at his best, because he knows what he has in front of him. He knows that Bud is high IQ. I think we have a hell of a fight. And if anything, we're going to have a hell of an event. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. Again, I see the Leonard. I think, every once in a while we have that fight.
That's right.
And as big as Canelo and Triple G was, we missed one thing in that fight that we have here. American.
100%.
Triple G was a hell of a fighter.
Great fighter.
But not American.
That's right.
You have an American in a time where timing's perfect. In a time with all this disaster going on that we have right now in America.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time, to put in Mexico against America, not against each other to war.
No.
But to settle this in a ring, in a big platform, and then to see the hug, whoever wins, whoever loses at the end, to give respect, because that's what we need today. Respect between both nations.
Yeah. Well, that's right. And all war should be settled in the ring. I mean, that's the way it should be settled, and the world would be a better place if that was, the fact. But I mean, look, I put it down.
We can still have a beer before and after the fight. We can still be friends, shake hands, and have a beer.
Corona, my friend.
There you go.
That's it. But I think, look, it is, a lot of people are going to doubt Bud, but I mean, I'm not just saying it because, now I have a strong friendship with him. I told him when I interviewed him, I had like a gala dinner, I interviewed him, and I said, look, to me, he's like Kobe Bryant. He's got a Mamba mentality. He believes he can't be beat. And he's got a reason to, because he hasn't lost. He's got a reason. He believes that he can overcome this. And I put it down to Sugar Ray Leonard coming out of retirement 3 years and upsetting Marvin Hagler. He knew he could do it. He knew to do everything he could.
Evander Holyfield with Tyson.
That's
he
right.
knew he could do it. When a fighter, I said it a little earlier, when a fighter believes, that's half the battle.
Yeah, that's right. So and when we look at stylistically, I mean, look, Canelo's, as I said, look, mate, he's definitely been one of my favourite fighters in the modern era. Even fighting great guys like Cotto, I was obviously, going for Canelo, and I love McGill. But the thing is, the ones that have gave him trouble are good movers, and not just movers. We're not saying runners. We're talking movers like Edison Lara. That was a very tough fight for him. Why? Because Lara had that good boxing IQ, the Cuban style. Floyd Mayweather, gave him trouble because he had that nice distance. Bivol gave him trouble because of the footwork and that. So I think definitely, and I'm not saying Charlo went up from 154, but Charlo made his mind up to survive. And when you got Bud's not like that. He's not a guy that's going to survive. He's here to win. So I think you'll see good boxing, fighting times when he'll be in the pocket. And I think that Canelo will probably get a surprise how strong he is actually too, because he's got the wrestling background as well. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of reasons there to show that Bud does have does have a chance. I mean, I think he's going to win, and I'm going to support him 100%. But I think for your general public that are looking at it, going, should we get this fight? Yeah, because it is. Mate, Bud's coming in to win. It's going to be Canelo's hardest fight since Bivol, definitely, in my opinion.
I agree with you, and I said it early on that as a matchmaker point of view, I don't like it because
Nah, of
you're
course.
supposed to win. If you
Yeah,
don't win, it's
yeah,
everything. I mean, it's
yeah.
no win situation. Um,
It's
but
obviously
it's here.
the
It's
money that's got him over the line. I mean,
correct.
I know when it was mentioned a while ago, he wasn't interested in it one bit. He said, "Look, he's not. He doesn't like the hotter guys that move, and the weight, and the fact that he won't probably get his flowers, win or lose." But obviously, Your Excellency's come in and he's making these fights happen. And I mean, Fear and Usyk had trouble getting made. That got made when the money was there. Better Dia Bivol. And I've been to all these fights live in Saudi when the money's there. So now, where the problem was, where both parties can't get on, and when you see Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren together, I mean that's just the be all end all. He comes in and goes boom. Even Oscar and Eddie. Now there's the money. What are you going to do, boys? And that's
Correct.
yeah,
Correct. That's for the good of boxing. We're seeing the best fights. We're even seeing rematches done right away, like we saw Bivol and Beterbiev. So the fans right now need to really uh, enjoy what we're getting and stop
yeah.
complaining all the time and say, look, we're getting some of the best fights. Let's enjoy it.
No, 1,000,000%. What's your thoughts on Dana White being the promoter of it? It's a bit. I know Oscar had his thing to say, and I mean a lot of people would have their thing. I mean, look, what's your thoughts there?
You know, I love it because the more promoters, because there's so many promoters in boxing, but there's so many little promoters for little stage fights and fighters that we don't know about yet or anything but big promoters, top promoters that are going to do it on a high level, there's not a lot. And if we have another or two or three, that's more opportunities for the fighters, the
Mm,
trainers, and the managers. So simply put, all the fighters that are unsigned by Eddie, by Queensberry, by Oscar, by PBC, or Top Rank, where are they? Fighting on small club shows. Well, these other guys can't sign them. And trust me, there's fighters out there that I've called some of these guys, hey, you interested? Top 10 guy. And no, we can't fight. We don't have dates right now. We're working on dates. We're working on deals. So where do these fighters go? Pro Box is out there giving a lot of opportunities
yeah,
to a lot of these young fighters. But the more promoters, the more opportunities.
yeah,
Because not every promoter can sign every fighter. We've seen that. It's been tried, but they can't because every day there's a new fighter growing or come being born. So if Dana can apply that, you know, yes, he's never done boxing, but one thing he's a promoter. And if you're a good promoter, if you're a good salesman, you're going to apply it to whatever you're doing.
mm.
One thing you know about Dana is he knows how to promote
Oh,
his market. He'll go do it. So
yeah,
it's just a matter of he's not
100%.
going to be knowing the fight. He can hire a matchmaker. That matchmaker puts the fights together, signs the talent, brings the talent. So the more the merrier. There's more opportunities. And
Yeah,
guess what? How big of an event if you get again? When I was back in Golden Boy, I didn't call it 5-on-5. I didn't come up with that, but I would tell to my side and then talk to Eddie and say, look, at
oh,
the end of the year,
let's do
the
it.
zone against not the zone, sorry, Matchroom against Golden Boy
Yeah,
at the end of the year. And it wasn't happening. It was like, man, they have their Super Bowl, they have their World Series, why doesn't boxing do it? Because of ego.
mm.
But now Queensberry against Matchroom, boom,
That was
five on
cool.
five.
Yeah,
That was great
that was
because
great.
even fans are going to see some great fights, but the promoters also have their fans, and now it's a little bit of a competition. Yes, it sucks when you lose, but man, it feels good when you win. So you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. That's just part of the game. But you just got to keep going and moving forward. So the more promoters now you put Dana into the mix and says Dana against Bob Arum, top rank. Their
Yeah.
best against their best,
Yeah.
and that's how the sport grows, man. And I can't look for I look forward to it because look, the more the merrier, the more for the fans. There's going to be fans that I don't want to watch that promotion. I don't like what they have. Okay, then watch this one, but
Yeah.
watch boxing. I
Yeah.
was asked a couple weeks ago on another podcast, what do I think about MVP and Jake Paul as a promoter? Or no, who's the best promoter out there? They asked me. And I said, I got to say Jake Paul. Jake Paul. And they're like, really? What? You're a boxing purist. I said, yeah. And this is a guy that started boxing late, who had no amateur career. And he's one of the top promoters in putting on the biggest
Yeah.
fights and the biggest events in boxing. So all props to him, man.
Yeah,
Him
for
and his team
sure.
are killing
Yeah.
it, are killing it. Here he is fighting a former world champion now, but
Yeah.
not 60 or 70 years old. A couple of weeks ago, he's fighting Chavez Jr. And I
Yeah.
think he has great matchmaking and great team behind him. And he's going to keep making history
Yeah.
until somebody says, hey, slow down, stop, because I'm going to knock you out.
Well, that's the thing. You're not saying he's the best fighter. You're saying he's the best promoter. I mean, that's
Correct.
the thing. And you got to give him credit. I'll give credit to both him and his brother, what they're doing in general. To make something out of nothing, to come out of nowhere. I mean, to even do an exhibition with Floyd, with his brother, and what Jake's doing. I mean, I interviewed them actually. I was there when he announced the fight with Anderson Silva, and it was in LA. And I was going to Canelo Triple G3 in Vegas, but I was in LA before, and I interviewed Jake, and I said, and there was a few guys in the back of the audience, and they were being a bit boo, and I turned around and said, "Hey, I'm from Australia, mate. Keep it down, show some respect." And it went viral. Everyone loved it. And I said to Jake, I said, "Congratulations on what you're doing." I said, "You're bringing eyes to the sport." And I said,
Absolutely.
You're bringing eyes to the sport that I love, that means more to me than anything, boxing, more than any, not a human being, but more than anything else is, but yeah, so you got to give him credit. And I mean, as I said, Golden Boy versus Matchroom with Oscar and Eddie, the banter, the whole would just be awesome itself, them two going back and forth.
Or imagine Golden Boy against Dana.
Well,
oh my
geez.
God!
I saw a clap back today, actually.
Hey, he was a hell of a fighter, great fighter. I mean, Golden Boy was on top of the world, one of the lead promoters in the world. But you got to remember, Oscar was a fighter. He'll throw the punch first and ask the second. I mean, amazing fighter, obviously an Olympian, multiple world champion. But sometimes I'm like, oh, what's he saying? But hey, to each his own.
I mean, me personally, because as he said, I was in the era when he won the Olympic gold medal. That was, when I first started boxing. So I was in the De La Hoya era. He was my favorite. It was him and Roy Jones. They were my two. But Oscar was my number one. And the first time I ever met him I said to him, I had a lot to do with Devin Haney and Bill Haney when they come to Australia, when he fought Cambosos twice. And I've been good friends with Bill, been to his house in Vegas. And it got me a really good seat there for Lomachenko and Haney, and I was like ringside front row. And as you know, early in the night.
Oh, you on the screen of the fight, you come out. Yeah, remember, right next to Oscar. That's right. You had real good seats. That's right. I saw you. I remember watching that part of the fight.
That's right. So there we are. So as you know, the early part of the card, not a lot of people are there, but I'm there watching every fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched Hector Lopez's son fight, and then obviously Oscar Valdez. And then coming in was Oscar and Holly. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I've actually, first time, because I said I really did idolize him. And wow, and I sat and Holly was next to me, then Oscar. And I was trying to be cool. And I'm like, all right, you don't want to, I just, I said, who won that round, Oscar? And he'd give me some feedback. And I was just, working away in. And then I had to say, look, I started in the era of your era. And I said, to me, you were the greatest, you know what I mean? And thank you, man. And since then, I've seen him a few times in Riyadh. I've actually interviewed him a couple of times. But yeah, it was just pretty surreal. And then they went from Mark Wahlberg onto Oscar, and I'm just there.
I remember. I remember that. I'm like, oh, there's my guy. There's my guy.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, so no, but I mean, yeah, look, there's some good things out there. So with you at the moment, you're pretty much you're in a position where you can work with any promoter in the world, or
Correct.
PBC
Correct.
to anyone. Yeah,
I'm right now, I mean, enjoying it. I'm advising fighters. Look, not every fighter can go to every promoter. There's some promoters that either are their stables too many fighters on, or it doesn't fit that so you keep knocking on doors, keep knocking
yeah,
on doors, and I've been fortunate to be able to place a lot of them, not all of them. There's
yeah,
still that some fighters that are free agents, but we're working hard to get them placed and let them have a home so that they feel okay, I have a home now. I can work, concentrate on my craft, and let the management team take care of the dates and the fights and the opponents. And
yeah,
then on the management part, say, look, I need activity for my guys. Turn them around outside of being injured, hurt, or defeated. Then let's keep them busy. That's the most important thing, especially at the beginning of a fighter's career.
yeah. Well, look, mate. Before we go, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, you're a legend of the game. I mean, as I
Thank
said,
you.
and
Thank you.
people don't realize, like, the promoters get their flowers and the managers get their flowers and the trainers get their flowers. But to be in your position where you matchmake and guided guys' careers from the likes of Canelo and Ryan Garcia, arguably two of the biggest names in boxing and two of the highest earners in boxing. You've been the man behind there. You deserve every bit of credit you deserve because you've
Thank
been
you.
there and paid your dues to the game. And I'm still happy that you're still so heavily in the sport. And I want to thank you for giving me your time, my friend. And yeah,
Grant, it's been an honor. I love it. I enjoy it. Thank you. It was great seeing you in Hamburg. It was great being a part. This dream with Billy,
yeah,
and I want to just close off with that because it meant so much to him. It meant so much to me. It started as a joke back in Uzbekistan at the WBC convention the
yeah,
year before, and we were talking about it, and just all of a sudden it's like, why don't you come back? And
mm,
I remember we even did a face off with another young man who's now signed with MVP from I think he's from India, and it's like, let's do this fight, let's do this fight. And Billy went home, I went home, and for those that don't know, Billy was given 2 months to live
yeah,
with after being diagnosed with cancer. I wasn't given a few months to live or weeks to live. It wasn't really got to that point, but I survived cancer of stage 4 as well
yeah.
many years ago. So
God bless.
Billy calls me back and he says, "Hey, I want to do it." And then I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what have I done? Now how are you going to deliver?" And he started training and training and training, and he's over 40 years old. He doesn't look it. He looks like he's
Ah,
still 30. He
he's the
looks
kid.
young.
He's Billy the kid.
Lily the kid, but his energy, always smiling. Even probably when he has a rough day, he still smiles and doesn't generate any type of negative energy. And I could hear it. Robert, this means so much for me. And it wasn't about purse. It wasn't about I need to get a fight because I missed this. It was a message and bigger than that. It was to
Oh,
give hope to people that are fighting cancer that
yeah,
it's not a death sentence and there is a opportunity and you can do it and let's fight together. And he went in and Grant, as soon as the bell rang, I was very nervous again.
yeah.
Because again, it wasn't about if we win this one, we're fighting for a title. If we win this one, we're gonna get an honor. If we win,
This is this
it
is it.
was really about sending a message. And how do you send a message if you don't win
Yeah.
or if you get knocked out? So
Mm,
I started getting nervous by the third round. Billy's trying to knock out his opponent. The guy's not going anywhere. Billy's staying in the pocket, trading punches. And I'm thinking, why did I make it an 8-rounder?
Yeah.
Why didn't I make it a 6-rounder?
Yeah.
Why didn't I make it a 4-rounder? It'd be over by now. And at the end, after 8 rounds, and he had won, his hand was raised to see how much it meant to him, to see everybody that got into the ring to take a picture with him, to congratulate him. And then a couple months later, I was watching, and I was in the States, and then I see him get up on the stage and receive the award for comeback of the year, and then give thanks to everybody that was involved and name me. It just meant so much, because I think a dream came true, a message was sent, and that's it. I saw him recently. I saw him in Riyadh for the Canelo fight, and I said, "Hey, Billy," and he looks at me, "Yeah, let's do it again. One more. No, you're crazy." I said, "Oh, I'm just kidding." Mauricio was with us, Suleiman, President WBC. I was like, "Let's do it again. Let's do it." I said, "Oh, just kidding."
Yeah.
But
no, it was beautiful.
It was great talking to you. I had a great time. I hope to see you soon. I'll see you for sure in September. Yep. Shout out to another Aussie fighter that I haven't seen in a long time, that I fought. We worked together for years, is William Thomason, out there from Australia, and currently Michael Sarafa. All the best, guys.
Thanks for being on the ringside seat with Tassie, mate. Take care.
Take care. Peace.
See you, champ. Bye, mate.